The reputation of Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov has seriously collapsed after the start of the Kursk operation of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, believes the chairman of the Council of Reserves of the Ground Forces of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Ivan Timochko. He said this in an interview with Ukrainian Radio. After the Kursk operation of the armed forces, Kadyrov went into the shadows, especially after those shameful moments when the deputy commander for political affairs of this direction, Apti Alaudinov, commander of the Russian special forces Akhmat, gave every speech that increasingly discredited the Kadyrovites, because the more he justified himself, the more he discredited, Timochko noted. In his opinion, this contributed to Kadyrov losing prestige in the eyes of Russians and significant influence on the internal political upheavals in Russia itself. The Kadyrovites have sunk to the point where they have started to conduct internal criminal showdowns, that is, even business has begun to escape their control inside Russia. All of this was influenced by the Kursk region, that is, internal ethnic contradictions in Russia itself have deepened, believes the chairman of the Council of Reserves of the Ground Forces. He also named the number of troops that the Russians are currently deploying in Kursk, 70,000 fighters. According to him, there are more of them than Ukrainian forces, and this, he says, is what makes the Kursk operation unique. The Ukrainians entered enemy territory with smaller forces and pinned down a huge number of the enemy around themselves. Timochko recalled that he had previously predicted that in order to stop the advance of the armed forces in the Kursk region, the enemy would need at least 50,000, and in order to try to launch a large-scale counter-offensive, it would be necessary to concentrate up to 100,000. As we see, there are now more than 60,000 permanent Russian contingent in Kursk region, which is fighting with the armed forces, which could fight on the territory of Ukraine and cause us destruction. Plus, there are 10,000 North Koreans, the military man said. He noted that despite the unequal forces, even after 6 months, the Ukrainian armed forces in Kursk region are moving to a counter-offensive at the tactical level and advancing several kilometers at a time. At the same time, all the success of the Russians in Ukraine is hundreds of meters. We feel the difference in the conduct and planning of operations, added Timochko.
Russian soldiers are experiencing shortage of military equipment on the front line. A video has been circulated in social media, showing Russian servicemen having difficulty to evacuate the dead bodies of their killed fellow soldiers. The video posted on Telegram app shows Russians carrying dead bodies of 2 fellow soldiers on a wheelbarrow under the threat of Ukrainian drones. The Russian soldiers were returning from a military operation and were carrying the wheelbarrow through the road that is filled with destroyed military equipment. Russian troops resort to various methods to evacuate the wounded and killed servicemen from the front lines. Numerous videos have been circulated in social media showing Russian troops struggling with shortage of supplies and equipment. Reports on the use of donkeys and horses by Russia's armed forces have also become widespread, highlighting the logistics problems within the Russian army.
Только и ждут.
Такой они как вы.
У нас проходят боевые дни.
Иду.
Вот с очередной работы возвращаемся. Лёнь, передай привет.
Всем привет. Мы уже почти отработали, осталось только на нуль выйти и все. Мы дома. Там хохол сидит.
2 посылочки. Наш. И укроп, блядь.
Ну ничего. Нам нихуя не страшно. У нас Санек-то с рэпом, блядь. Я рядом с ним стою, блядь, как под куполом, блядь, и меня держит, нахуй. А еще у него тетя, как это, Була. Ну, хуяк, уже птичек знаем, где летит, где чё, нахуй. Ну, такая поебень. Вот с клещей возвращаемся.
Russia's naval presence in the Mediterranean appears to be ending as ships arrive at Syria's Tartus port for what looks like an evacuation following the fall of the Assad regime. The Telegraph reports that this development, along with NATO's expansion in the Baltic region, marks a significant shift in naval power dynamics. The departure from Tartus, Russia's only Mediterranean naval base, represents a major strategic setback for Moscow. It effectively ends its ability to project power in southern Europe and the Middle East without lengthy deployments from distant home ports. The withdrawal comes amid broader regional changes that have seen NATO's influence expand, while Russia's maritime reach contracts on multiple fronts, creating what analysts call a homeless Russian Mediterranean fleet. At best, the Russian Navy in the Mediterranean faces uncertainty, notes a new Royal United Services Institute report as thousands of Russian personnel and their warships prepare to depart Syria. The strategic implications are substantial. Russia has maintained a presence in Tartus since the 1970s, significantly expanding its role after 2015 when it intervened in the Syrian civil war. The base became particularly crucial after Turkey closed the Bosporus Strait to foreign warships in 2022, making it Russia's sole Mediterranean naval facility. According to the Telegraph, Russian forces retreated to Tartus and Khmeimim Air Base in November as rebel groups mounted a surprise offensive. By late January, equipment was being staged for withdrawal after failed negotiations with the new rebel government for continued access. While alternative bases exist in Algeria, Sudan and Libya, RUSI indicates none are viable replacements. The think tank notes that Algeria lacks a clear imperative to host Russian forces. Port Sudan negotiations are still floundering, and Libyan facilities present technical challenges. If the Russian Navy loses this access, it will not cease to be a regional player. RUSI explains, but its presence will be far more diluted. Libya could work. Russia already operates the Al-Qadim air base in this region, RUSI pointed out. With a concentration of effort in eastern Libya, Tobruk and potentially also Benghazi could offer safe haven to a homeless Russian Mediterranean fleet. But Tobruk, in particular, might not be ready. With limited repair facilities and no dry dock, few berths of sufficient size and limited opportunities for expansion, long-term investment in a permanent presence would likely present technical challenges, RUSI noted. This naval retreat coincides with Russia's diminishing influence in the Baltic Sea, which has effectively become a NATO lake following Sweden and Finland's alliance membership. Russian vessels would face a perilous journey from Arctic bases through multiple strategic choke points to reach southern European waters in any potential conflict.